On my recent visit to Paris, I was lucky enough to include the Rodin Museum in my itinerary for the day, and I was surprised and delighted to find that his Egyptian collection was on a temporary display that will continue through March of 2023. This included a collection of some of his pieces. Apparently he had amassed over 6,000 pieces of Egyptian art through his lifetime. I actually ducked into the first building you come to when you get to the museum grounds, sort of just to get out of a hard rainstorm that suddenly blew up. So I was pleasantly surprised to find this collection on display in here, and I took the opportunity to walk through it and see some of the small pieces that were part of Rodin's original collection. If you like Egyptian artifacts and history and archaeology, this is a nice little museum to duck into if you are in Paris in the early part of the spring of 2023. I believe it is on display until March 6th. If I understood correctly as well, Rodin never actually went to Egypt, so this was all collected without ever having traveled there. Once the initial really bad cloudburst had cleared a bit, I managed to get outside into the gardens as the sun broke through, and I was just in time to turn a corner and see this, The Thinker, which is probably one of his more famous works. It's actually a lot bigger than I expected. You can see by the people there. I don't guess I didn't know how big that was, but it was really cool to see that. I didn't really wander much out into the garden because, as you can see, the sky was definitely looking kind of ominous. So I kind of took some pictures from just up closer to the mansion of the garden. I didn't wander a lot, but I did see the few pieces that were closest to the mansion. I waited for the storms to kind of pass, and they didn't seem like they were going to, so I decided to just go ahead and take some pictures from right here and go ahead and go into the mansion. I enjoyed this particular museum more than I really thought that I would. I've never been incredibly interested in sculpture, but I really found these fascinating. All these busts that he had done, a lot of them are practice pieces for larger final works, and a lot of them are very famous, but it was really interesting to see them up close. I especially liked this little orphan statue in marble. It had a certain sparkle to it that you have to see in person. It was just really beautiful. These busts were all so beautiful, and I found it interesting that he had used the same woman in multiple busts in different sittings. And this portrait of a young girl in a floral hat, I've always loved, and I always wondered who she was. I passed through a room full of busts of various people from his time, and then a full-size statue of John the Baptist, followed by this next piece, which caused a scandal when it was displayed in the late 1870s. He was actually accused of using a live cast for this model, who was a Belgian soldier at the time. He had to prove that he had actually sculpted this and not cast it. Some of his other famous works were on display and practice pieces for the final sculptures. There is the Kiss, and one of my favorite pieces, which is the Burghers of Calais, which represents a famous moment in French and English history, if you are a fan of the 100 Years' War. My final stop was in a room of sculptures by Camille Claudel, who was Rodin's student, his mistress, and his muse, and a great sculptor in her own right. This is The Mature Age, which shows age taking him away as youth reaches for his hand. On a little touristy side note, if you go up and down these stairs enough times, you will still not find a bathroom in this building. I was directed back to the small building at the entrance to the estate where the Egyptian collection was on display, downstairs near the entrance. Overall, this was a great way to spend a rainy afternoon in Paris, and I highly recommend stopping here if you haven't been. If you enjoyed this little visit to the museum, please don't forget to subscribe to keep up with our travels and travel tips. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.